Good evening. Before we get started on tonight's show, I just wanted to give you a quick update on Fulton County, Georgia. The Wright State Jail is where the co-conspirators will have to surrender. Keep in mind, it's open 24 hours a day, and there's no stipulations as to what time of the day or night they can turn themselves in. The process will include a mugshot, fingerprints, as well as a medical questionnaire. This process can take up to 12 hours due to overcrowding at the jail. The arraignment and bookings will be separately, but could possibly be on camera since this will not take place in a federal courtroom or federal courthouse. District Attorney Fonnie Willis has suggested to the court that the trial begin March 1st, 2024. Keep in mind Mark Meadows, and there is some speculation that Trump as well, is trying to petition a federal judge in order to have this moved to federal court, meaning the jurors will not come exclusively from Fulton County, Georgia, but most notably the northern counties of Georgia. This would give them a greater pool, and they're afraid the politics will play a part and that people have already made up their mind, and given that Fulton County didn't do the best for Republicans, especially this tiny tyrant, they're looking elsewhere to shop around. Also, to let you know, Rudy Giuliani is now speaking out about Trump promising to pay his legal fees, and he has not done that in months. So now, Giuliani is hinting that he may flip sides, but Giuliani has tanked any legal credibility that he had in the past. So how well of a good witness would he make, and how willing would the DA be to make a plea with him? Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let us begin tonight's show. Women/femme presenting individuals and differing POVs as to living in the United States today. And welcome. All right, where did Miss?
Hi.
Oh, there she go. I was about to say, I know she didn't just run away after it took me a month of Sundays to get her here.
How did you? What? That's not fair. Now you look great.
Who?
You.
Oh, thank you. I just had my hair up in a bun and it was just not behaving, so I was like, let me just take it down real quick and just handle it.
It looks amazing. Beautiful hair.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, quick caveat onto the update that I put at the top of the show. After I made that video, additional information came out regarding the DOJ case that Trump has before Judge Chutkan. I promise y'all I will be able to speak tonight. Trump's legal team is now asking that the trial begin in April of 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the DA is asking for September, October?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're also trying to move it to federal court, which really has no standing considering they are being charged violating Georgia's RICO laws. There's no standing to push it to Fed. So And apparently the judges, the ones that it's slated, everything slated to go before in Georgia are not Trump appointees. We deal with that in Texas with all our federal district courts, from Albright to Gilstrap and all the judges here, Judge Ho, and of course the lovely, I can't remember his name, the guy that tried to rip out prescription abortion.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember his name. I've met him. They're all douchebags, but they would have all rubber stamped it, right? So
now for the first, before we get started, because I know everybody comes up in different orders, different from the order that I see on my screen. So I'm just going to randomly start. Okay. Since Miss Arena has never, ever, ever been on the podcast, let's start with you. If you could do a brief intro of yourself, please.
No.
Get
off the show. I'm joking. Imagine.
Can we, for 1 hour, can we try to behave?
That's my best friend. Y'all kick her off, I go.
Okay. Who's kicking her off? She being mean to me. You know what? You were like Courtney and Miss Arena defending puppers. Okay, I be Team Taz, and they be like, "No, hashtag Team Peppers." Wrong.
Team Peppers forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hashtag Team Crackhead. That's what Taz always calls the dogs to me, and I'm just like,
because he is.
Like, yeah.
Okay,
introduce
yourself.
So, hi, you guys. My name is Arena. I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know. But I don't know what to say. Really, like, who I am, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
Same.
Fair enough. Pam?
Me and her have had this conversation so many times. I'm just, me. I am, as for what contributes to this particular conversation, at 57 years old, right before my 58th birthday, I announced to everybody that I'm non-binary, which was, an interesting thing to have crystallized and clarified for me this late in life. I always knew something was different, that being white, I had the privilege of, in middle class, I had the privilege of carving out space to just be me. And y'all just had to deal with it. This is who I am. And that was okay, without having to title it. So it's been an adventure. It's been a life.
Oh, we got an intro for Miss Arena. Thank you, Quad, with the come through. Arena is a badass cancer survivor, a mentor to women, and a wonderful friend.
And a bitch.
Sorry, I'm blind. I can't see that far. I'm like maybe 1.5 feet away from the camera, and I literally can't. I could just see the shape of you. I can't see anything.
That's why I got glasses. I finally got a new hearing aid, so it's in my ear, and I'm we're good. So
I'm feeling like I should put my glasses on. So yeah. So my name is Adiba. I am a trans woman from New York. I'm a Mizrahi Sephardic Jew, Persian, and Moroccan. And I am 31 years old, and I'm a hairstylist by trade.
She's the baby of the panel.
Don't judge my hair. I need to get it cut so bad.
To be completely honest, I can't see your hair because I'm so blind right now. So you're totally fine.
You. I'm trying to say she can't see you.
Could I get my glasses? I feel like I'm the only person, right? Does everybody have? Yeah, everybody has glasses on. I need to get my glasses so I could join y'all. Give me 1 second. Ow. Because I'm blind as hell and I really can't see the screen right now, and it's just not cute. So I'm like,
I promise y'all I have friends that don't wear glasses. I don't know where they are, but I do have them. They are somewhere.
I had a husband that
they're somewhere, not here, but they're somewhere. Where we don't know.
I had a husband that refused to wear them until like 18 months ago when I made him go to the eye doctor.
Okay, that's not really. That doesn't really do much because I probably need a new prescription at this point. But yeah, sure, cool.
Okay, we're going to start off with one video that once the panel was revealed to people, this was an audience member submission, and they want you all's honest opinion on it. So remember, I am just the messenger, Miss Arena.
Usually more observant. They watch and learn from everything that's happening around them. They can assess situations, understand people's motivations, and see opportunities or threats that a lot of other people might miss. Men usually have a strong sense of self-control. They don't allow themselves to be swayed by outside sources or impulses. They think before they act and consider all possibilities and outcomes and consequences. Their actions are very calculated. They're not spontaneous at all. They choose the right moment to act for maximum impact. Actions are very calculated.
Okay, I got one thing to say.
So do I.
How can it be effective if it's calculated and pre-planned and not? There's so many contradictions going on there. Let's get that part out of the way. The assessment of what is effective and good is muddled and can be adjusted to fit anything to make men look good or not. Okay. Go.
I feel like she just needs to be thrown away. I'm sorry to say it like that, but it drives me insane when I see women stick up and say like, "Oh, men are calculated," and they think logically, and I'm just like, really? Because every war that we've had in human history was started by a man. Are you sure they're not a little emotional? Just saying.
And I don't see how emotions are illogical by default.
Right, because emotions tie to our logic. Why do we feel this way? Well, because this is making me feel this, or this is making me feel this. So, like, why? Like, they also forget that anger is emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that to happen a lot, and I think like any person that's going to sit here and try to justify that type of behavior, like honestly, they really need to go touch grass and just like do some self reflecting.
And it's always interesting to me whether, no matter whose face that particular type of message comes out of, they specifically muddle the definition and the end goal and include everything from both sides. So no matter what argument you bring up or what you push back on, you're pushing back on yourself. It is very calculated to be set up to where no matter what you do or where you come at it, it's ineffective, or they try to make it ineffective by doing that.
I agree. Do you have any thoughts, Arena?
I didn't hear it, right? I didn't hear it.
So essentially, she was trying to justify men's thinking and saying that they think more logically than women.
There is a reason that I didn't hear it. But I didn't need to hear that. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I said what I said, where if you logically think about every issue that's happened in humanity, it's been predominantly started by a man. So like you can't sit here, every war, every conflict between any country it's always been a male president, a cis man president. And I know some people probably don't like the term cis, but you know what? Stop throwing a sissy fit. Get over it. I'm tired of you.
My theory: white women don't want to be called cis until they want to call black women cis.
Exactly. Now, a caveat jumping from there, I believe that if not all, the vast majority of women or femme presenting individuals have been told at some point or multiple times in their life that they are emotional. So my question,
what? I'm sorry,
that we're emotional.
Oh yeah.
So my question to you: has there ever been a time where your emotions have helped you through a situation?
Absolutely.
If I don't have my emotions to guide me, my connections to other people, my empathy to hear other people, if I don't have those things, I'm making decisions in a vacuum that hurt people. So how can your emotions not help you? Now, there's a difference between being emotionally intelligent and listening to your emotions and completely submitting to them in a moment of decision, which, I mean, sometimes can be good, but in general, if it's involving other people, that's not the way to make a decision necessarily. It's not necessarily not. But yeah, emotions are not, and I raised my kids this way and battled with my son still to this day. It's like, you're allowed to have emotions. It's okay, right? But I was
I
actually
think
harder on my daughters than I was my son about emotions, which I regret. But in all honesty, I was much harder on them because I had come up through corporate America and the don't cry and all of the other things. And I was the kind that I was in the CEO's office. I didn't give a shit. I delivered the CEO a letter one time that told him everything that was wrong with the company and everything he needed to fix at a rah-rah meeting, right? I'm just that person, good or bad, and sometimes it's bad. But I was harder on my girls.
Now, with that, because you know me, the conversation is going to crisscross intersectionality and definitely going to dip into nuance. With that, even as a woman or presenting person, have you ever caught yourself judging the emotions of another woman who doesn't share community with you?
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I would say so. I would say like for me as a trans woman too, so I transitioned at 14 and I'm now 31. Um, and even before I transitioned, I would say I always had a thought process like a girl or like, like a woman now. I never really thought of things as the way like males do, right? And for me, like transitioning, the amount of times I've had men who want to be transphobic and misogynistic, and people don't realize that trans women can experience misogyny. I had a man tell me one time, he's like, "Oh, well, since you want to be a woman, go get into the kitchen and make me a sandwich. You don't get to have an opinion." And I turned around and I said to him, I was like, "Well, can you build me a house? Because if you can't build me a house, then I can't make you a sandwich, right? I need a house with a top of the line kitchen and appliances if you want me to cook for you. And if you can't provide that, well, then I can't cook for you." So oftentimes, like people want to invalidate my experiences as a woman because I'm trans, and I'm just like, listen, there's nothing wrong with stating that there are biological differences between trans women and cis women. That's just facts, right? There are biological differences, but there are areas where they overlap, where we could experience similar things. And I was in a live recently. I actually called Taz after because it was a very emotional and triggering live for me where, they were trying to invalidate my womanhood and say like I'll never understand because I'm a trans woman. And one of them literally had the, I'm gonna say caucasity because they were a white woman, to tell me that like you'll never understand what it's like to be essayed by a man. And I said, actually, I've been essayed by men 3 times. So you're wrong. And I was like, who are you to sit here and tell me what I'm afraid of or what I've experienced? And I was like, listen, I'm afraid to walk alone. I'm 5'9", and trust me, I can fight. I'm not afraid. I'll fight till the death. But I was like, I'm not comfortable walking by myself at night because I'm afraid, like, what if someone tries to hurt me for being trans? So it might be a slightly different reason, but it comes down to the
But
same
you did it both.
answer.
But you
Right.
feel a threat from both as being
Right.
a woman and as being
Right.
trans, right?
Exactly.
And what white cis people, straight people need to understand is every one of those is an exit ramp from intersectionality.
Right.
You can lean into it and get off. Why are you?
Right. So like I tried to explain hormones and stuff like that to them. Because they're like, oh, you don't, you subject yourself to taking hormones. It's like taking hormones wasn't a choice for me. It was a life or death situation. And I was just like, what's ironic is, people like to talk on hormones. They feel like they don't know, um, they feel like they know like the extent of it. So like, for example, for an average female, the estrogen levels in them is 40 to 400 deciliters, PG to deciliters. And my estrogen count is at 360. So it's funny, I was on the phone with one of my best friends, Kaylee, and we're talking, we just both have blood work done, and I'm reading off my levels, she's reading off her levels, and she's like, how are your levels reading more female than mine? And I was like, it just goes to show you.
I've heard this, and I don't know if it's true, but that a woman, a biological or AFAB, on her period, has a higher testosterone level than most women.
Yeah. So that is actually true because essentially it's an increase of androgen in their system.
Okay.
And like, for example, for me, I had to take androgen blockers. So, when they try to bring up the sports topic and stuff like that, I'm like, you do realize I'm literally on a testosterone blocker. Like, my testosterone levels are essentially non-existent.
Yeah.
So, and they bring up the bone densities. I'm like, do you understand why trans women have to take hormones after gender reassignment surgery? No. I'm like, well, because they could develop osteoporosis since they're not producing a natural sex hormone anymore, which guess what is brittle bone disease, which means the density of the bones can change.
Yeah.
So, and muscle, I mean, the way I try to, sorry to like ramble on, but the way I try to explain it to them is that, when they talk on their experiences as a biological female, and then I talk on my experiences with hormones, and they're like, well, you're taking hormones. And I was like, I understand I'm taking hormones, but hormones is what instructs your body to go through what it goes through. So what do you think is going to happen when I'm taking those same hormones because I'm on hormone replacement therapy? I'm going to experience some of those same things. I experience hot flashes, food cravings, breakouts, tenderness of the breast.
Hot flashes suck.
They are the absolute worst.
I mean,
I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead, Miss Serena.
Everybody
you have had the more biography of women than I am, because I'm on hormone therapy right now for my disease. So my levels are low and my testosterone is high, which is weird. So if you want to do biology, it would go to you. It wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's really disturbing that we try to define other people's identity based on things that can change because you have a pituitary issue or you have
right. Everything is a fluctuation. So everything's circumstantial. Nothing stays the same. And it's like, I feel like for me as a woman with my experience, I've gone through so much medical stuff going on, and it's like, who is someone to tell someone what they have or haven't experienced or what they've experienced, and like the same thing, like they're the same people that say, don't call me cis, don't label me, but then they have no problem labeling someone else and telling them who and what they are. So it's like, well, if I'm going to match your energy, I'm going to match your energy. Like, I reached a point where I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'll just match energy, and if you're mad about it, well, then change the way you're treating me.
Now, and Taz, you were asking if we've ever judged.
Oh, wait, Taz had a question.
With that, let's jump into this, because I know everybody's seen it, everybody's witnessed it. When you are listening to a point of view or giving a point of view, there's always that one woman that must come and center herself. How do you combat that and deal with it?
It very much depends. It very much depends. Usually with a smart ass. But no, I mean, there are times that you can quietly ask a question. If you think somebody is dealing with white women all my life, growing up immersed in white women, you can tell when somebody that's how they exist. And if you go, hey, shh, they will. Especially now at my age. If I tell white women, shh, politely, well, not really politely, but not embarrassingly, just, hey, shh,
right.
Not you. A lot of times they'll listen to me and they'll stop. It's like when the whole thing happened in the Victoria's Secret, what baffled me is there were so many middle-aged white women that could have walked up to her and said, hey, stop it.
Right.
She might have responded to, right? So I have that luxury. I'd love to hear other people's answers, though, because I have that I can do. Because I look like they're
Arena, do you want to go? Or no? Do you want me to go? Okay, so typically me, I like to respond with bringing facts, as they say, right? So like, for example, if I'm talking about my experience as a trans woman in a conversation to bring my point of view, and then someone tries to like, I guess like steer off that, or they try to like almost invalidate it, to say like, well, you don't go through what we go through, and it's like, okay, again, everybody has their own womanhood. Is a Jewish woman going to have the same experience as, well, No? Okay. Wait, hold on. Yeah, there we go. Is a Jewish woman going to have the same experience as a black woman or as a white woman? I'm trying to point down. I'm not trying to point at you. Or as a disabled woman, or as a Muslim woman, or as a. We all have different experiences, and to say that all women get a period or all women can get pregnant, that's false. That is logically false, scientifically false.
Mhm.
So a lot of times
And
I
it's
try to put,
irrelevant. If I
right,
am a woman because of my suffering, and that whole train of thought is just ridiculous. You're not a woman because you don't get assaulted.
right.
Okay.
It's like they want to gatekeep and set like what certain boundaries are supposed to be, and it's just like, who are you to tell someone else what their experiences are, who they are? So like in that live that I was talking about, that's an example of like what I meant, where they were trying to tell me, oh, I've never experienced, SA, and I'm just like, are you sure about that? Like, do you know me? Have you actually spoken and listened to me? So a lot of times, people will talk about like puberty blockers, or they'll talk about, the sports topic. And here's what's interesting is that 1% of trans people regret transition, right? And I think detransitioners are valid. But here's my thing is that you have to realize they're not trans. They're valid in their experiences and what they went through. But realistically, they're not trans because they realized they weren't trans. Otherwise, they wouldn't have detransitioned. And that goes for the real detransitioners. There's a lot of detransitioners who detransition because of financial, societal, or familial, situations, and then they end up retransitioning at a later point when they feel safe enough to do so. So there's a lot of misinformation on it, and they tried to, bring that up, and I was like, did you know like 21% of people regret having knee surgery? Did you know 10% of people regret having a child? So there's percentages that are larger than the
Over
regret rate
90%
in
are.
trans people, but they don't want to talk about those because they just want to fixate on trans people. And I'm just like, go
Yes.
touch grass, go do something productive. Like, why do you care so much? Like, we're not taking nothing away from you. And, I'm also the type of person, I have no problem respecting the woman and not calling her sis if she asks me. But I always follow up with the question where I'll say, you want me to respect you, and I get it. Everybody wants respect. So if I, as a trans woman, ask you for the same respect and I ask you to drop trans and just call me a woman, are you going to extend that same respect? And most of the time, they'll say no. And what that tells me is that they want respect. They think they're the default, but they're not willing to give that same respect that they're demanding. And for that, I say sit on a cactus and rotate.
Yeah, just realize the only default I am is a default for needing a full-time babysitter. Okay. If anybody would like to apply, my
Kaz, don't do yourself like that. Come on now.
my last sitter quit after 3 hours because she said I was teeing too much. But evidently,
Are you wanting a sitter or an executive assistant?
my executive, okay. First of all, people think because I go through so many assistants that I'm a bad boss. No, my executive assistants, they always tell me they gain more skills and then they find the higher paying job because I am a small business. I can only pay you so much. So they learn a lot and go off. But then they say it's not fun not working with you because I have no good sense and I follow the little sparkly bouncing ball through the day. That's why I need you here. Okay. Do y'all understand? I got lost twice walking the dog in my own neighborhood because I was like, oh, this is new, and started following stuff. Yeah,
so basically, you're like a parrot when they see something sparkly.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, for this,
Can I bring up something that I would love to get y'all's opinion on at some point? But go through your program,
Yeah,
and then
of course.
Okay, real quick, I'm gonna pull us for this video because it's a little bit longer, and this will give Miss Arena a chance to pull out another device and turn up the volume because I know what that is like. Just because this is something that consistently happens in society, and all of us can give our opinions on it right after this. Okay, we'll see you in 2 and 2.
Hi, everybody. A lot of people are not going to like this post. They're going to get pissed off at me and tell me that I'm a racist. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a racist. And the people that I have dealt with that are African American are racist. Being a DoorDasher, I drive down on Martin Luther King Drive in Fort Myers quite a bit. I pick up a lot of deliveries from places, cafes and everything that are not like super prominent and all of that, and people order from them quite a bit. So just as an example, I will give you just an example today because there are so many. Today I go into this place called Palm Tree Cafe. I've been there before. There is a lot of African Americans that go in there. White people, I have not seen any white people other than myself. I go in there. I don't expect anything from anybody but the same thing I give to them. So I'm standing there and I'm picking up an order for someone, and I talk to the girl and she talks to the guy and she says, go pick it up at the window. I said, okay. So I turn around and I said, there's 2 packages. I said, is this for so-and-so? And excuse me, is this for so-and-so? Excuse me, this is DoorDash. He's right there, and he won't answer me. And finally, the girl from behind the counter goes, Gary, is that DoorDash? And he goes, yeah. Okay, so I pick it up. I go up there and the girl bags it for me and I do everything, and I'm going to reach for it because I'm at the counter and this other African American woman is standing there, and I said, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to reach past you. And she fucking ignores me. You know what? Bullshit. This is bullshit. White lives matter too. You know what? We are becoming the minority. Y'all treat us like shit. You know, I'm out there door dashing. I have no air conditioning. I have a fucking fan on my neck to try and keep cool, eating ice cubes. And these people are telling me I'm not even good enough to acknowledge. Okay, fucking vent over. Just get used to yourselves. I'm not going to even mention the fact of the goddamn guy standing in the front of the store, unzipping his pants when little girls go running by into the store. You know, I mean, he's yelling shit that nobody can understand. Excuse me. But as soon as this little girl gets out of the car and jumps in to go in the thing, hey, baby, and unzips his pants. What the fuck?
There is so much to unpack there. Can I start, since I just have a lot to say? What did race have to do with her doing her job? That's what I need to know. Like, I didn't understand. Like, your job is to be a DoorDash. Someone has to do it. All respects.
Can I give you the white woman's train of thought that leads to that?
Please, because I don't understand as a Middle Eastern and North African woman.
It starts with, I had a shitty day. It's hot. I live in a trailer. I struggle to pay my bills, or a mobile home, a motorhome. I struggle to pay my bills. I'm pissed off. And it starts this verbal diarrhea. And you can watch her build it as she goes through.
Oh, she just rambled and rambled. I was just like, my jaw was just dropping. I mean, Jazz could tell you, my jaw was just dropping. Like, I was like, what?
She's a racist bitch that wants to justify her move. Huh?
But let me add this caveat in, because remember how she started. She had to point out that it was Black owned, Black patroned, and that she didn't see a lot of white people there. So she was super pissed off that Black people could sustain Black people without a white.
You know what I would like to say to her? Well, if you feel like you're the minority in a Black neighborhood, maybe you should move to a white neighborhood. And if that's such a problem.
And she's racist. She's angry. She was mad. She went into this restaurant, saw Black people being joyful, probably in some cases with not a lot more than she feels she has, but they're happy, they're joyful, they're sustaining and supporting each other. She doesn't have any of that. So she goes home angry and she starts this rant, and it ramps up and up, and it gets more and more explosive, and until she comes back at the end to throw in the most incendiary of all the accusations of a man unzipping and exposing himself to children. Right? She just had to throw that in.
But that's what they do. Is they're always projecting and putting out these, radicalized ideologies, I guess you could say, about groups of people. And, it's like, for example, today on TikTok, one of my mutuals, he's a really cool guy. He's a gay guy. He's always calling out, homophobia, transphobia, whatnot. And a fellow North African woman comments on his video. So he literally just posted a video of him talking about how his sister put the silverware in the dishwasher, right? And he's like, "Oh, well, I do it this way or whatever." And so this North African woman comments and goes like, "Oh, white men just need to shut up." And I'm like, what does him being white have to do with how he puts dishes in the dishwasher? Like, I didn't understand what she was like trying to get at, you know what I mean? And I'm just like sitting here, I'm just like, what? And so like she goes, "Oh, why are white people being offended?" I was like, "I'm North African and Middle Eastern, just like you." I was like, "Do you want to try that again?"
Well,
I was like, "You're
this because I can tell you how it actually went. She came in because remember she said the young lady had to package it. And she
right."
said she picked it up, then she was at the counter, and then some way it was moved over. This is how it happened. She walked in. I'm from DoorDash. I'm from DoorDash. I'm from DoorDash. And his back was probably turned. He's working. And in smaller restaurants, there's usually a fan blowing, a phone ringing, people chattering from the kitchen everywhere. And then she goes, "Oh." And then when she's not the first person in line, decides she's going to walk up because she's DoorDash and sees a woman probably placing.
No, because she's a right woman, not because she's DoorDash.
This black woman is probably looking at the menu, placing her order. "Excuse me, ma'am," very meekly, because if you all remember a few months back, there was a white woman who came onto the internet to talk about her child not getting cake at a birthday party in the park that her nor her child were invited to. And there were people like, "Well, I would share with the child." I wouldn't. In a day and age where there are way too many allergies, I don't know you, you don't know me.
Right.
And people did not catch that this white woman said she was standing back. She wasn't even up with her child. And then you heard clearly from way back here, and then you ran up. They feel the need, and this is why I say, to be the consummate default damsel in distress. Just like the ones who are like,
they have to always victimize themselves. That's what I find, and to me, it's just frustrating because it's just like you're not a victim. I mean, listen, there could be things that are victims that they've been victimized in, absolutely. But in like this type of situation, you're not a victim. It's like you walked in, you're doing your job. Maybe the person didn't hear you because they're focused on their job, whatever the situation may be. And if they didn't hear you, you could just simply say, "Hi, excuse me." Grab their attention that way. Like you could still grab their attention in a respectful manner. Maybe just say it a little bit louder.
But her racism is right there in her face when she walks
Yep.
in, and it's a majority.
Absolutely.
Black. So
David knows this about me, and my friend Sabrina and I, we talked about it earlier. I am okay with hearing inside if there's no background noises. If we're outside, the chances of me being able to hear you are very slim. And people joke about me constantly going back to the same restaurants because the staff knows me and they know I may have to lean in and I'm not trying to be funny, or I may have to write something because I can't hear them, or there are a few members of the wait staff around here that can sign so we can communicate with each other. Because even with my hearing aid in, if there's a bunch of background noise,
it affects it. It affects the way that you could hear.
To me, wah, 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 wah. So you never know. But you see how this woman tried to make herself a victim. And I was going to put together a video of the comment section.
Ooh, it was a mess.
I was getting so angry.
Sometimes the comment sections are even worse than the videos, to be honest, because it's just more people who are coming out their way, just showing their bigotry. And it's like the video fuels the fire and then the comments are the fire. And it's just, for me, a lot of times when I see videos like that, the comment section is basically just like a pre-organized block list for me. Just like, all right, block, 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 done. And it's like, for me, like, that's why I brought up kind of the situation, what happened with my friend on TikTok, because again, I was like, I didn't understand the context of like where she was coming from. Like, to me, like, what did his skin color have to do with how he's loading a freaking dishwasher? And it's like, for me, do I think white people can experience racism? No. Do I think they could experience prejudice? Yes. People could be prejudiced towards them. Do they deserve it a lot of the time? Probably, because we know how they are as a group of people.
Yeah, but
They're not the
Yeah.
prejudice is going to hurt your feelings, right? It's
Right.
like,
And that's what I'm saying. Like it's like
Oh,
cis
Arena.
women feel like there's prejudice against them because we call them a cis woman, and it's just like, okay, like that hurts your feelings. Sure, maybe you don't like it, but that's scientifically accurate to what you are.
Mm-hmm. Arena.
Yeah. You know what? I think that we're in a vacuum because we're online so much, right? And people say that white people can't experience racism, but they experience prejudice. And my question is it prejudice? Is it based on history, on my experience? It's not.
No,
It's kind of
no,
exactly.
and
that was my
Exactly.
I'm
point.
not
Right.
prejudiced.
And that's what my
Prejudice.
point was too.
I'm not.
That's what my point too is that prejudice can also be circumstantial. So just because someone didn't agree with you doesn't mean they're necessarily prejudiced towards you. Do I
No.
think if someone deliberately denied you something because you're white or because you're black or because you're trans or because you're this, yeah, that's underlying prejudice. But if
Bias.
you
I would
had
say
I
bias
think
more than
I
prejudice.
yeah, I would say bias. I
I
think you know what, you're right. Bias is a
I
better
don't
word.
believe that it's prejudice. If you're not safe for me and I don't want you in my space, that's not prejudice. If you're not safe,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're not safe,
Right.
you shouldn't be there. And here, the next,
it's just common sense.
yeah, this next clip is very short, but it's an example of when the story first broke. We had no pictures of this woman. We just had her first name and
I know what you're
her last name, and there was such an outcry and such support. Then, give it a few days, we found out what this woman looked like, and we had a full name. And now there's not so much support. Confused about what I'm talking about? Just take a look at this short clip.
So you may not have heard of this girl, Salia Issa. This prison guard was at work and complained about having labor pains. They wouldn't allow her to leave work for over 2 hours, which resulted in a stillbirth. If you don't know what that means, that's when a baby dies in the womb after a woman is 20 weeks pregnant. The hospital told her that they could have saved her baby if she would have came to the hospital sooner. This whole thing is sad. What are your guys' thoughts about this?
I sent that to Taz and we talked about it because I messaged her and I said, I bet you, that she's black. I just.
I had no idea. I had no idea that she was black.
Yeah. And to me,
So I actually never saw that video before.
Yeah.
It's a modern day lynching of an infant.
Mm-hmm. It was. I got an alert about the article, and this happens to me not very often, maybe once or twice a year, where I click on an article and it's just gone. It's not gone from the ethosphere. It's just gone from whatever app I'm getting it from. I saw the headline, and I promise you, within like 20 minutes, Pam had sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh, good, I can read it." And I did like a little search. I could only find the husband, and I'm like, okay, seeing the husband doesn't mean that the wife and the husband are the same race or same ethnicity. Everybody can marry whoever. And I was like, you know what? I'm thinking that she is. A few days later,
it took days before the pictures came out.
Yeah, and this is by the time I talked to Miss Arena about it, it came out that this woman was black because you saw a good shift. Because at first it was all these women rallying together. This isn't right. This isn't right. And then when they found out it was a black woman, it was, oh, I can kind of see their point. Oh, well, why didn't she just leave?
Right. They tried to justify what happened to her instead of continuing the same support. And that's, this is exactly why, for me, when I hear Black women talk on their experiences in the medical realm of things, where how they're treated, this is why they probably feel the way they feel. I can't talk on it. Obviously, I'm not Black. I'm North African and Middle Eastern. But, I could empathize. I could comprehend, probably close to what they've been through.
Her boss said she was lying and didn't try to send anybody to relieve her. Her boss said that she.
Yeah, that's typically what a man tells a woman with anything.
No, it was
is that we're lying.
It was a female boss.
Oh, that's even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I've told a very Cliff Note version of this story, of when my body was septic, and after going to a third hospital, thank goodness for this nurse, I was finally taken seriously. The first hospital I went to, because I was feeling like crap. And we all know your girl loves a good snack. And I couldn't eat any of my, like, I could smell a chip, like a plain chip, and I couldn't eat it. I couldn't stay awake. I was moving in slow motion. They told me I had a migraine and gave me a prescription for migraine medicine. The second hospital thought that I was there for pills, and I was like, can you just put the warm blankets on me because warmth seems to be dulling the pain. I don't want any medication because any type of pain medication makes me very loopy. I can't communicate, and I really need to focus. Put tramadol in my IV and then sent me home.
I've got a contrasting story.
I stopped breathing in the wee hours of the morning. Fortunately, someone was there with me. EMTs were called. Now, a friend of mine does work for the division that showed up, but he was off work that night. They argued, saying that I was faking it. I couldn't breathe. They made me walk down the steps. We finally get to the ER. This nurse, her name is Ginger, God bless her soul. She immediately looked at me. She called for clergy. She called the top doctor. She wrote up the EMTs and was like, are you crazy? She came in and figured out that I was septic, but I was so far gone, they didn't think I was going to make it out of the emergency room. That's why she called for clergy. And in me saying and doing all of this, the mother of the man I was dating at the time kept telling everybody I just wanted attention. Mind you, I hadn't left the house, hadn't been around anybody. What damn attention was I going to get? That I just wanted attention by not being able to hold my head up. I had gone a whole day without a shower because I couldn't stand up long enough to get even to my shower chair. And I was terrified that I was going to either drown if I drew a bath or I was going to fall and crack my skull open if I tried to take a shower. Anybody who knows me, I'm like the 20 times a day, wash your hands. I will change my shirt if I get a little bit of a spill on it. A whole day, me not taking a shower. Because even my dad was like, go to the ER. Because he FaceTimed me and was like, you have on the same shirt you had on yesterday. What's going on? And it was another woman. And the first two doctors and sets of nurses, women. And the saddest part, 3 of those women were also Black women who know what we go through. Mm-hmm. But for them, I was just attention seeking. Where?
I have an almost parallel story with some major differences, which is wild. I had surgery, orthopedic surgery on my foot, and they sent me home with a nerve block that went in behind my knee. And then they had me pull the nerve block at home. And within 30 minutes of pulling the nerve block, my leg hurt, everything hurt. I was sick, took me to the ER. They said, oh, it's muscle cramps, filled me with Dilaudid, sent me home. Went back with 103-degree fever, pissing myself, couldn't talk. All I could do, of all things, I kept singing the song Help. Don't know why. And they're in there in the ER pumping me full of so much Dilaudid, saying it's muscle cramps, it's this, that, the other, and just coming in every 2 hours and throwing more Dilaudid in the IV until my surgeon, who happened to be there on an emergency case, saw my name on the ER board, came down. I was septic, and it had crawled up into my abdomen it was cellulitis that had gone all the way up my leg into my abdomen, fully septic. I spent 2 weeks in ICU. But you notice the abject difference there, right?
Yeah, they were pumping you full of meds.
Yeah.
They weren't giving you shit.
Yeah.
And what?
See, I could talk on an experience as a trans woman with the hospital. So when I was 13, I was diagnosed with chronic migraines. Chronic migraines is written as 16 or more migraines a month. And in, I think it was August of 2019, they had adjusted my hormones. And I guess because like my body naturally produces estrogen a lot more, it was too high of a dosage. And as a side effect, I had a migraine for 6 weeks straight. And I was at work working through all of this. And I'm in the color room, I'm mixing color, and my coworker is next to me. And this is like my work bestie. It's like we've worked together for 12 years. I turned to her and her face, her face dropped. And I'm like, what? And I was like, what? And I was slurring because slurring is also a side effect of migraines.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, Ava, the left side of your face is drooping. So she thought I was having Bell's palsy. So I called my mom. She picked me up. She took me to the emergency room. I sat in the waiting room for an hour with my head in my hands, screaming in pain. When I finally got back, they didn't even put me in a room. They just put me on a gurney in like one of the halls.
I've had that.
So many people passed me that my mom literally had to scream, "Can someone come look at my fucking daughter? She's screaming in pain," and not one person has stopped to check on her and see if everything's okay. And if she didn't do that, and if she wasn't there, I truly believe they would not have cared for the simple fact that I'm trans.
Oh no, they definitely would have, because I passed out and subsequently had a full seizure. I was volunteering at it's called the Work Resource Center in Cincinnati, and I started volunteering because of my granny. And basically, anybody with any type of handicap can go, and you have volunteers that will teach them anything, teach them the route to get to work, teach them how to do their manual labor, teach computer skills. And I was there to teach computer skills. I stood up to walk from one student to the next. In my head, I made it to the next student. When all of this is happening in my head, I'm still working. Keep that in mind. I had collapsed and had a full-on seizure. The paramedic who arrived is somebody that I went to high school with. So he knew. He was like immediately like, oh shit, I'm familiar with her medical history. We had to learn some stuff about her in high school. We got to get her now. Did she come in contact with anything that she's allergic to? He hit me with the EpiPen just in case. We get to the hospital. I woke up on a gurney in the hall. Thank goodness my granny, a retired surgical tech, was like, where's my granddaughter? Now imagine 5'5" of Gullah Geechee badassery. Okay. She was like the Don Corleone of Gullah Geechee. All right. And I remember finally focusing, and she has a handful of doctor because they were just convinced that I would be okay. No scans, no monitors, just in the hallway. And he literally said, she'll be okay. You know how Black women are. And speaking of which, I have a new travel companion. I have a travel cane. Okay, so I got my regular one, and just consider this my new chair. You see it? So if I see you out there and you say some craziness,
as you should.
You
I
know
mean,
what?
listen, I can even speak on an experience with my mom. So my mom passed away almost 2 years ago from stage 4 breast cancer. She had a double mastectomy, reconstruction, the whole 9 yards. And about 6 to 7 months after, she was feeling a pain, like kind of like in this region, right? And so she went back to the doctors, and they said, oh, it's probably just nerve pain, because the type of reconstruction it did was called a D flap, where they do like a tummy tuck, and then they take the fat from the section of the tummy that they took out to recreate the breast mound. And she kept complaining. They're like, it's they said it was like, nerve pain, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, I want to go for a scan. And they told her it's not protocol. And she goes, what do you mean it's not protocol? I just had stage 2 breast cancer and went through a double mastectomy to reconstruction. What do you mean it's not protocol to check for a scan to make sure everything was taken, right? She goes somewhere else. She was going for a sonogram. She originally had it in the right breast. When they checked the sonogram to see there was nothing there, she asked the technician, she's like, do you mind if I show you something? And she pulled up her shirt on her left side because she said there was a section of skin over here that looked blanched. That's the way that she described it. The technician literally said to her, I don't care what doctor you call, you're not leaving here without a biopsy. 2 days later, we found out it had metastasized and became stage 4, and it spread to the bones and the liver. And that's what the pain was the liver. And then it eventually spreads to the lymph nodes, the stomach, the brain. I watched my mom go into complete liver failure because doctors were so fucking incompetent and couldn't listen to her before it might have been too late. So I definitely think all women are not taken seriously when it comes to this, but especially Black women. I
And that's,
know,
yeah, that's
like the hospital is for Black women the way police is for Black men.
Well, definitely. And since you brought up cancer, here's some nuggets of wisdom I want everybody listening to pay attention to. If you ever get diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, do not take the first medication that they prescribe to you. Make sure that you cross-reference it with cancer medications, because a lot of cancer patients end up with rheumatoid arthritis, and a lot of rheumatoid arthritis patients end up with cancer because the medications crisscross and cause those things. And please research it, because that is how my mother ended up with cancer. Second, there is a little known breast cancer that most people are not made aware of, because you're told to, touch the top, check the tatas and everything else. Also, pay close attention to your nipple and areola, because I don't know if it's Paget or Paget's, it's Paget. And that causes the tumors to start to grow on the outside and push through either from your areola or your nipple. And you'll start to notice, because it'll start to pink, PINK, or become more red, or you'll start to notice your nipples scabbing a lot, and you need to go to the doctor and get checked immediately and fight them on it, and make sure they check you before you leave, because these are not talked about enough. And generally, by the time you notice it's going on, it's
too late.
Too late. And Pam, I know that you had a topic you wanted to bring up.
Well, it kind of applies here. And so here's my thing with coming to terms with of being non-binary, or whatever, giving a name to it, and being a white woman, or having been raised my entire life as a white woman. It's interesting and a little bit uncomfortable to talk about white women as separate from me. And I don't know how to deal with that. That's the thing I'm dealing with now, is how do I, because that's what I was all my life. I have those experiences, but it's not who and I don't ever want somebody to think I'm distancing myself because I don't want to be. It's weird.
I think it's important that you obviously recognize your experiences, but I think it's also important that you've also learned from those experiences, and that shape the person you've become today. And you don't come across as the type of person to be like a problematic white woman. You come across as an educated non-binary person, someone who took the time to unlearn things that were, presented and projected onto you as a kid, and even a young adult, and even as an adult, from people around you. And you took the necessary steps, it seems, to say, hey, listen, I didn't like that. I didn't like watching those white women do this. And you learned from it, and you implemented it into yourself, where you're now aware. And I think as a non-binary person who is white, you have to realize that there's an intersectionality too. You know what I mean? Intersectionality goes for everything.
But I think for this, Pam, think of it like this. When you got married and there were geographical changes, if you changed your last name or not, and those changes, you were still the same person, but also different. Right. And you had that physical and metaphysical separation from your original core family. So think of it now that you've been able to say, you know what, there is a title for who I am. And this is the house that I'm moving into. This is my new core family. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily distancing yourself away from the core family that you were raised with.
Okay.
It just means that you were in the next step of life.
Because that's
right. You're in a new chapter.
Right. And what gets me is when I'm talking about white women, I never used to stumble over the inclusive language of we and us, because I don't believe in separating myself from the worst. Right now, I stumble with the we and us.
Because I'll tell you why. Because you've seen their behavior, and you know that you don't
I
behave
take
in that
it up.
manner.
No, when I'm talking about the worst of white women, I use we and us. I don't feel entitled to separate myself from the worst of us. And I don't want to not use we and us now because I don't want to separate from the worst of what I grew up in, know very well, and everything else.
But
But I don't
that's what
feel
that's
it internally when
But
I say
Pam,
we and us.
but that right. That's why I'm saying it is that you learned internally what you didn't like from that group of people. So while you can recognize you were a white woman for predominantly most of your life, and you're now a non-binary individual,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
you
Sorry, I
grow.
didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. That's why I wanted to clarify because um when you go through this, like think of it like for me, like when I transition, the way I try to explain to people is that I'm the same person I was before. The only thing I did was I just changed some outwardly appearance things. That's it.
Mhm.
But I'm still a Deva. I'm still me. So
Yeah.
it's the same for you. You're still the same individual. You've updated some things about yourself, which is totally fine and valid. And you've also learned from your past experiences on how to change and how to be better. And to me, I think that's commendable. I think that's um I think that deserves recognition. You know what I mean? That you were able to see the errors of the past and move forward in a better direction.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
What were
Miss
you
Rich,
gonna say? Oh,
okay. We're getting to the final thoughts moment. Mr. Rich, say something. Say hi. Tell me go to hell something.
Go to hell.
but Pam, I tell you, I'll be honest. If I was impact of the intent, if your aim is to educate every women, white women, you should be inclusive because that's what works.
Yep. Okay. You're
Totally
right.
agree.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's not important on how you're seen or what's more important. What should be more important is the work that you do.
Yep.
So you know that you're non-binary. The people who marry, we know that you're non-binary.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
And listen, by outward appearance, someone might not necessarily know that you're non-binary. But here's the thing. This is where conversation and this is where respect comes into play. That when they address you and they introduce themselves to you, you can explain yourself. And
Absolutely.
listen, if they don't accept you or they don't respect you, bye. Don't let the door
yeah.
hit you where Sky Daddy split you.
Yeah.
That's all. Are you trying to beat me with something? Oh, that's your cane. How do you know I don't like that, Taz? Should I bend over?
Send me a link where you get your canes from because I need to get one for my daughter.
Will do. So hold on. Oh, Pam, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. Take up the space that is yours to take up, but make sure you don't take up everybody else's too. It's all platitudes. Everything we say ends up being turned into a platitude. But the reality is, everybody deserves to find joy in this world. Everybody.
Absolutely.
To find it. And don't let, and if, on the days you don't feel you can fight to protect it, lean on the people around you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Final thoughts, David?
Me personally, I agree with what Pam said. I think a lot of people need to do self-reflecting. They need to worry about themselves. People are so worried about what other individuals are doing. And to me, I think it creates so much division and it creates so much problems that just don't need to exist. Like there's bigger issues going on right now. And it's like for me, like as a trans woman, something that I always feel like I have to explain to people because for some reason, like cis women always think it's like a competition, and I'm just like, I'm not in competition with no one but who I was yesterday. I want to be a better person than I was yesterday. I want to accomplish more than I accomplished yesterday, and that's it. And I think, like I said, going back to what I said before, focus on yourself. And you can focus on yourself and you can fight for yourself without trampling on others. There's a seat for everybody at the table.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Serena.
I agree. Absolutely. With that being said, when you focus on yourself, you need to also understand the role that you play in the bigger picture. So that like we see a video and it's like, oh, it's just she just silly, just ignore her. But it's not that simple. And I think sometimes people don't understand how impactful their ignorance is, how impactful their deflection is, because it doesn't have to be you or your group to be affected, right? If someone is hateful to someone else because they're trans, they're, I'm not going to wait for them to be hateful toward me because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. So we have to be mindful. We have to understand that we are our own people, but we have a lot more people watching us and being impacted by things that we might not understand they're impacted by. You know, for me, I'm newly disabled, so I see things a lot differently than I saw before. I have a new intersection in the whole grand scheme of things, and when I see someone do something to another group of people, it affects me almost the same way that it affects them. And I think that sometimes we think that we're in friendly company, you know what I mean? And we all have different intersections that people might not be aware of. You might look at me and you might not hear me talk, or you might say something that might be evident and you don't realize, or you say something about someone who's trans and not knowing that my loved ones are trans too, or you say something hateful about a white woman, not knowing that my best friend is a white woman. We have to be mindful because you never know who's watching, especially nowadays, because things can go viral, people can film this, people can reach for footage.
Things can go viral in a split second. You know, like just to like express that. I was doing a live. Taz knows this because she saw the video, but I was doing a live trying to educate and debate about trans people, and a whole group of trolls came in and literally tried to say that I was convicted for domestic violence. And I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Do you realize how if that spread, like someone saw that and decided to spread that, how easily that could spread, and that can create hatred and that can create violence towards trans women,
Yeah,
and specifically me.
From the comments section, I got banned from going live for 3 hours because I may have told a couple people that they mama shouldn't have went to that first date hungry, that she knew she was supposed to swallow boneless children, and now we have to deal with they cum pet asses for the rest of our lives. I may or may not have gotten that, but it's all
I forgot about cum pets.
My daughter gets comment banned all the time for telling people that are shitty to me to go play in traffic and please die or go choke.
Please. I'm on my third account right now. The third account is
Same. I'm on my third too.
That must the spoil waiting for your daddy to come back with it. That ain't my fault.
I'm on.
See, my favorite insults. My favorite insults is sit on a cactus and rotate. Or I'll say like your mother should have spit you out in a napkin and flushed you down the toilet.
No, I tell them to slide me their Meemaw's number because I'm about to be Papa.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. You should be more respectful.
Oh, I've done that too. I've said, I was like, listen, I'm old enough to fuck your father and become your stepmother. You could be going to boarding school very, very easily.
I will marry everybody in your family and go through everybody's bank accounts, and I will sell everything down to your toothbrush. I don't care. But
I'm on account 7, 8, and 9 right now, and number 9, which is my only public account, is about to have to go private.
yeah. Well, thank you all for joining me. As always, make sure you all check out what the links in the description of this video. And if you want to follow these lovely, intelligent, vibrant individuals, their usernames are tagged below as well. And now, y'all know, before I end how I always end, just real quick.
Oh no.
I told y'all that the day Miss Arena came on the show, the rest of the week, you're gonna be sick of me. Guess what? Till next Thursday, you finna be sick of me. You finna be sick of me. I must put it everywhere. Y'all gonna see more clips of this show than you done seen of any y'all. You finna be sick of me, and don't let me convince everybody to come back like on a monthly basis. Y'all gonna be sick of me at the end of every month. Okay?
I'd do that. That would be cool.
I'll come back once a month. I'll do that.
Miss Arena, you come. You down? You down? Miss Arena, you gonna come back?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody get real close and stare until she says yes.
And as always,
peer pressure.
Each one reach one, and I will see you all tomorrow for Freeform Friday. And y'all take it easy on these blind react submissions that y'all give me for Friday, because y'all last Friday was a little cray cray. Yeah.
Pin peppers. Whoop, whoop.
He done perked up to don't get no. No, we not about the box. We cool. If you
Crackhead.
Some Crocs.
If you're not following the it is now officially the Adventures with Puppers series on my page. You might want to go, because yesterday Mr. Blue's Clues got a letter, so you might want to go check out that letter.
I saw it. That was great. I'm gonna send Pupper some Crocs. What color does Puppers want?
Oh, and we got one team Puddings. Puddings is still missing.
Wow, I'm so blind. Oh my gosh. I did not realize how I just took my glasses off, and like, to go from being able to like actually see people to like, okay, so do you want to take a guess what my vision is?
0 out of 20.
2150.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, my doctor tells me, he said your vision would be 2015 if you didn't have an astigmatism. Because when they say are you nearsighted or farsighted, my answer is yes.
So I have an astigmatism. My vision is 2150, which means technically I am legally blind.
Well, first of all, I would have better vision and a better body if I would have baked all the way in my mama's belly. But evidently, I was impatient, so here we are.
I don't know what my excuse is, because I was only born 2 weeks early.
Damn.
Damn. Love y'all.
Bye.